Hi everyone, welcome to the Career Pivots Product Management Masterclass. My name is Lisa Huang-North, and today I'm going to help you become a more successful product leader. I'm currently a product and program management lead at Planet, a startup based in San Francisco that's using space to help life on Earth. I'm also a founder of the 5-week Aspiring Product Manager or 5-week APM program with a goal to build a peer learning platform to help you, aspiring PMs and early career PMs, to have an opportunity to get more hands-on experience building a product. Our journey together today will cover 3 main sections. Firstly, we'll start with the product management fundamentals, where we'll talk about money and talk about why product management may or may not be a career path that you'd like to pursue. And then we'll speak about how to translate or transfer some of your skill set and ensure that they are applicable for a career in product management. That's where I'll invite you to put on your PM hat and we'll map out some of your existing skills and experience. Finally, we'll close with building relationship. We'll speak about how you can get job referrals from both your existing network as well as your extended network. Lastly, speaking on the power of community and how you can tap into some of the existing product management focused communities out there. To start, let's go into product management fundamentals. Chances are a lot of you have already read articles, watched videos, and researched about specifically what product management is. But at the same time, this is a question I do get often from both mentees as well as other aspiring PMs, so I thought it's a good way to set the scene. Before we proceed, I always like to start with quotes. I think it's a great way to find role models who can inspire you to pursue a career path. In this case, I wanted to share a quote from Stacey Cunningham, who is the president of the New York Stock Exchange Group. She is also ranked number 27 on Forbes' World's Most Powerful Women's list. And here Stacey says, taking risk is okay. Failure is okay. If you're not pushing your limits, you're not growing quite as much as you could. So before we dive deeper, I think as with any product manager or any job searcher should know, is what is the demand for the job function that you're trying to get into within your local city or within the industry you're trying to get into. In this case, most of the scope will probably be around product management within tech industry, but note that there's also other industries such as FMCG or fast-moving consumer goods, as well as things like telecommunications, even journalism, that are seeing increasing demand for product management. So I pulled this information from LinkedIn this morning, and I'll highly encourage you to do that as well. LinkedIn, again, it's one of the best platforms to understand what the job posting trends are like right now, and it's a good sense of the job market. So in this case, I typed in product manager for United States, and as you can see here, even within just the past month, there's been over 73,000 job postings with the title product manager. On LinkedIn, you also get a hint of what the salary may look like for your local market. In this case, you see that even for a product manager role at DeepMind, it ranges from 91,000 to 200,000, which is quite a big range. Now you can narrow it down further by updating or using the search function. In this case, I plugged in San Francisco Bay Area, but you can obviously plug in your city or your locale, even for the statewide, to understand what the market looks like. And in this case, in the San Francisco Bay Area where I'm at, you'll see that in the past month, there's been 6,000 plus jobs that's posted. And again, looking at the title here, you'll see that the average salary, or at least quoted, not average salary, you'll see that the salary quoted for the senior PM role with Dropbox ranges from 140K to 270K. Some of the stereotypes out there might be that most product management jobs exist within the tech industry, specifically in the San Francisco Bay Area. However, looking at the numbers, that's clearly not true. Less than 10% of the job posting. Again, if we're contrasting between 6,000 to 73,000, less than 10% of posting are within the Bay Area. So what is the average base salary for a product manager? Again, on the bottom, I have some reference links. If you look at LinkedIn Salary Insights, you'll be able to find what the average salary is like. Using different filters, you can find what's like within your city, within your state, or within your country. In this case, we can see that the base salary for a product manager starts on average around 85,000. Upwards to VP of product within the US can go upward to 240,000. Note that this is the base salary. So moving on, you'll see that the total compensation looks quite different, where it starts at 126,000 all the way upwards to 740,000. Now that's pretty crazy, right? The difference between the total comp of a junior or early career product manager versus a VP of product can vary as widely as over $500,000 US. And this is within the USA. This is where I think it would be really helpful for anyone, again, looking to transition into any career in any industry to understand what the typical makeup of a total compensation package may look like. If we compare to the previous slide, which is base salary, often the cash portion, which is what you will see reflected on your W-2 or your monthly paycheck, versus the total compensation. So what's the difference? Well, some of it may come from the form of a sign-on bonus. Some of it might be a performance-based bonus, such as an MBO. Depending on the company, oftentimes in tech, you're likely to get stock options or equity as well. And there may even be some other factors, such as relocation. So it's really important to understand what that difference is between your total comp as well as your base salary and what all the different parts are. Again, depending on your current situation, whether that be your financial situation or your family or your life's priorities, you may look at the composition slightly differently. Some examples would be people who care or value more of the cash portion, which is a base comp, versus any equity or stock that, again, could be more risky. So when did product management first emerge? I think just in the past 5 years, we've seen a lot of excitement, explosion of interest in product management as a career path. And a lot of that is obviously with more communities budding up, such as Mind the Product, Women in Product, Product School. These associated training as well as universities beginning to introduce product management courses have led to an increase in interest. But if we really look at it, some quotes that Hewlett-Packard was actually one of the first tech companies to implement this job, which dates all the way back to 1930s. So from that perspective, product management or PM, it's not a brand new job. It's not a new discipline. It's been around for a while. Though it may have predominantly been in tech companies, as the job market evolve, as we see different, cross-collaboration between pure tech companies and other companies such as journalism, right, that also need to start looking at software or building web applications, that's you'll see that PM discipline has evolved and it's beginning to shift into other organizations as well. Now, you may have heard the term product owners too. This is a common question that comes up. What's the difference between product managers and product owners? Now, if you're a purist, you will understand that back in 2001, when Agile Manifesto was first written, Scrum team came shortly before that. And really, product owner was defined as a role on the Scrum team. And the goal of the product owner is to serve as a proxy or to represent the voice of the customers. And oftentimes they are an internal person within the business who work very closely with the software engineering team to represent the voice and the needs of the user. Some of the responsibilities of a product owner include defining product backlog, helping to create actionable user stories for the development team, helping to groom and prioritize the backlog, as well as ultimately accepting the completed user stories and making sure the work meet the acceptance criteria. In another word, product manager may be the job title, and product owner would be a role you play on a Scrum team or a software development team. Again, the practice differs from company to company, even from teams to teams within a company. So this is something to know when you're going into job interviews or even informational interviews and coffee chats to understand what the structure of a product organization look like at your target company. Do they have product managers and product owners? What are the difference between the roles and how do they work together with each other? So why do companies need product leaders? Again, lots of articles out there, lots of best practices, and at a very high generic level, a product manager is responsible for delivering a product to market that both address a market need as well as represent a viable business opportunity for the company. And at the end of the day, they are responsible for managing the product throughout its life cycle, starting from conception, which is 0 to 1, through end of life, which is when you need to sunset or deprecate a product. Now I have an article here from 280 Group, which speaks about product managers' roles and responsibility. And one of the framework which I think was quite helpful was looking at the key competencies. 280 Group breaks it down to 4 main areas: domain expertise, business expertise, operational ability, as well as leadership skills. We'll dive into that in more detail shortly. But when you are evaluating a job or a specific opportunity, it will be helpful to ask yourself, hey, will this job or opportunity give me a skill and experience in at least one of these 4 competencies? Especially if your ultimate goal is to transition into a product manager job, whether it be in your current company or at a new company, chances are you'll need a blend of these 4 key competencies. So that helps us segue and move swiftly into transferable skills. A lot of the time, depending on where you are in your career, you will have come from different industries or maybe even different job functions. In tech industry, you'll hear the word, I'm making a pivot, or I'm making a career transition. And what that means is you, depending on where you come from and what job experience you have, you're simply trying to make a transition into a new role, product management, and possibly a new industry, tech industry. Now, just because you're transferring or transitioning doesn't mean that none of your skills apply anymore. So it's really important to take stock of your existing skills and experience and understand how you can translate that or map it so that you're bringing your transferable skills to the table at your new employer. Another wonderful quote from Indra Nooyi, who is a former CEO of PepsiCo. This quote really resonated with me. She said, when women are empowered in the design and innovation process, the likelihood of success in the marketplace improves by 144%. Now, what struck me with this quote specifically is around the importance for women to be in the room where decisions are made, especially at software companies. Products and business strategy have impact on possibly up to millions of users. If you think about the Google, the Facebook, the Microsoft, the Ubers of the world, a lot of these B2C companies have millions of users. So it's important for us to be there in the room when decisions are made. Beyond diversity and inclusion reasons, it's also because a diverse thought or a diverse team does help to make the product better. In this case, with very quantifiable business results. So if you're attending this class live, you will be able to fill out the quick poll. And in this poll, I have something for today, October 31st. And this I'm asking 3 quick questions for you to fill out what the number 1 skill you think a product manager should possess. And if you sample or rank yourself against 100 people, right? Rank yourself with a similar skill set and level of expertise. Where would you rank yourself? In the bottom 10%? In the top 10%? somewhere in between. And finally, how would you rank yourself in terms of your networking skills? So give it a moment for everyone to fill it in. Great, welcome back. Thank you for filling out this survey. So now this is where we can see that a lot of people have chosen communication skills, interpersonal skills, as well as strategic thinking skills. They are definitely very important for a product manager. You may have heard the term that PMs will lead by influence, not by power, because as product managers, oftentimes you don't have team members who report directly to you. So what you have to do is you have to achieve cross-functional alignment to really rally the entire team behind your vision so that you can collectively build a product that will serve your end customers and users. Now with the self-assessment, again, pretty typical, we'll see a bell curve, right? Normal distribution, where a bulk of the people will rank themselves somewhere in the middle, 7 to 8, yeah, somewhere right here. So what's really interesting when you look at the quote-unquote number one skills that people perceive a product manager should have, how does this map out to the 4 key competencies we spoke about earlier? You'll see that strategic thinking and prioritization skills are mapped to leadership skills. Analytical communication, interpersonal, oftentimes is mapped to operational ability. Now, what about the other 2 dimensions? How about your domain expertise or your business expertise? Where do they stand? And where do you rank yourself in that? Shishir Mehrotra is a great product leader who I greatly admire, and I love to share this PSHE framework, which Shishir has developed when he was leading product at Google. He was heading up the YouTube product after the acquisition, and at the time they were trying to define a strategy on how they can grow and structure the product team. So what I really like about this framework is that it shows both the x-axis as well as the y-axis. Shishir mentioned in his talk that a lot of the time when you're thinking about career progression, how you're promoted from PM to senior PM to director PM to perhaps group PM, director PM, depending on where you are. Those 2 roles or seniority may change. Principal product manager, and ultimately VP or head of product. Most people think of it in terms of scope on the x-axis. So they think about, hey, how is my product area expanding? Going from managing one specific feature to a group of features to potentially a product sub-area or multiple sub-areas to ultimately owning or overseeing the entire product line. Now, what Shishir put forth is actually we should be also considering the y-axis, which is how people's ability as well as strength evolve over time as they become more senior with more experience. Specifically, PSHE stands for problem, solution, how, and execution. Now there's a lot of text on here. I don't expect you to read all of it. Again, feel free to look at the link after the class and you can go and read the actual article, which is very helpful. But at a very high level, if we start from the top, typically your head of product or a VP of product, oftentimes you're known as a visionary leader. And here within the framework, they are someone who's given an ambiguous space who can determine the problem to focus on and then develop solutions. In another word, if you were to ask anyone on the team who is the heart and soul of the direction of the team, would her name be at or near the very top of the list? So moving down, this is probably where you have a principal product manager or even a director of product management, and that will be a solutions designer. They've been given a problem space, albeit it might be ambiguous, and they are asked to come up with a solution and then execute on it. In another word, can she take an unscoped area and figure it out? Or does she need help? So moving on to an organizational or organization leader, this might be a group PM or it might be someone who has a team of product managers reporting to her. And here, given a problem and rough solution, can she figure out how to execute and get it done? In another word, does she have proven ability to influence and resolve contentious issues across diverse functions, levels of seniority, etc.? We spoke about cross-functional team alignment earlier. Oftentimes, the organizational leader is very much working across teams to help to create alignment so that the team is rallied around a common vision. So moving on, this is probably where you get product manager, senior product manager, and they are an execution powerhouse, where their focus is they've been given a problem space, a solution has been identified. Some have figured out the rough how, a lot of the time a strategy or a product roadmap, and the question is, can you execute with this given how? In other words, can she be relied on to manage complex projects to a deadline? When the unexpected arises, does she identify and manage the issues promptly and effectively? So the focus here is really on execution. Now let's take a look at 2 job posting examples and see how they map out. Because as you'll learn shortly, product manager at one company may not be product manager at another company. So firstly, let's look at LinkedIn. I got this job posting this morning and it was posted about 2 days ago. It's for a product manager for the LinkedIn Messenger. This will look quite familiar. Most job postings have some sort of responsibilities as well as qualification requirements. And here, if we look at it, the top 3 bullet points are really focused or can be mapped to an organizational leader role, where part of the job is to figure out the how of execution. In this case, a problem space, right? Problems have been identified, which is helping our members be successful in today's job market. Or if you just look broadly at LinkedIn's mission, that's where the problem space is. The solution has also been defined. In this case, the solution is using a messenger, right? To help the members of LinkedIn to communicate with each other. So really the role here of the product manager is to first figure out the how, which includes analysis, determining the right set of features for group messaging usage, specifically on LinkedIn. That's the solution. And we talk about developing product and platform strategy, and we talk about building a comprehensive roadmap to deliver on growth target. So that is the how. Now, if you look at the bottom 3 bullet points, they're very focused on the execution. And here you have drive requirement definition, including writing PRDs, a product requirement document. You have working cross-functionally with other teams, right? Specifically the product development team to bring the feature live or to build it. And finally, communicating product benefits to both users and internal stakeholders. So these are focused on execution. And at a high level, you'll see that a product manager role at LinkedIn spans across both the how as well as the execute. So now if we look at another job posting for a smaller startup, it's called Linkia, and the company is much smaller. I think they have less than 100 employees. And in this case, you'll see that title-wise, it's also a product manager. But if we start looking at the responsibilities as well as the requirements, you'll see that really only the first bullet point maps to the how. In this case, it's known that as a PM, you'll collaborate with other senior leaders within your team, senior PMs, leadership team, to develop the overall product strategy, the vision, the roadmap, and establish goals for the product. Everything else maps squarely into the execution phase, from ROI analysis to writing business requirements to analyzing and prioritizing incoming requests to ultimately creating and maintaining release documentations as well as communicating statuses. So very much focused on being an execution powerhouse. This is one way where as you decipher or as you look at a product manager role, you can try to use the PSHE framework to understand how senior or what other relevant skills and competencies required. Now, another framework that's really helpful is something developed by Julia. I can't pronounce her last name, but by Julia. And she is one of the Women in Product community member. So Julia has developed the PM Daisy framework, which is a visual framework to evaluate PM responsibilities. And here, another handy way, I think Julia originally developed this for current PMs who are evaluating their current job responsibilities, but it can be equally helpful for you to map out a job description on the Daisy to get a sense of where this job will fall and how your skills, your experience, and your competencies map to this. So again, another handy framework to visualize. As you know, right now, and I think in general, the job market is very competitive and it can be difficult to stand out from the crowd. I have assembled and curated some of my top referred references or documentations and go-to resources, and they're here so you get to see that afterward. And I've also created a product management 101 resource pack for you. Now, at a high level, there are tons of resources out there around job search, resume tips, cover letter tips, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But at a high level, I think these are the non-negotiable basics that everyone should be able to do and should know. I think high level, there's two different school of thoughts. There's usually the kind of numbers game, spray and pray, where some people will apply to 200, 300 companies because they think it's a numbers game. It's really about getting number of tries up, right? Applying to lots of companies and see what sticks. I'm more of the other school of thought, which is having more quality preparation, but applying to less number of applications. Again, find whatever works for you, but that's my opinion, and that's what has worked for me. So tailoring every application to the specific position. After doing the exercise, you should be able to highlight your transferable skills adapted to that job, and you should be concise, clear, and demonstrate why you, out of the sea of applications, why should they pick you? Remember, the point of your job application is to get that first phone call back. So the goal is not to tell them everything there is to know about you and all of your experience and skills, but the focus should really be on pitching why you are a good fit for that specific position in that specific product team and within that specific company. Now, it's always good to research a company. One of the quick hack is to read the latest press release. Oftentimes, the company's latest press release will talk about their newest initiative, from product to business strategy to maybe even new leadership being appointed. So that's a good way to get, quick, maybe just 1 hour flipping through the press release pages and seeing what's been said. Again, company values are typically listed in every career page or the About Us page on the company. So you should allude to them in your cover letter. Finally, for your resume, incorporate best practice, right? So there's STAR format, there's ACR format. I personally really like the ACR format, so I would recommend writing or rewriting your resume bullet points to the action, context, and result. The focus here should be on your results. Use quantifiable numbers whenever possible, whether that be percentage, dollar value, or just a number. And there's, again, lots of examples out there on the web. UI, UX does matter. I'm not saying go crazy and make your resume super designy, but if you stand from the perspective or stand in the shoe of a interviewer or a recruiter, lots of time they're parsing through hundreds of applications, and chances are most of them are pretty standardized in format, the black and white format with blocks. So even if you just bold your name or even use a different color font for your name, that may make the difference when someone is opening yet another resume file and they see, oh, there's some colors in here, and you might just wake them up after looking at 10 to 20 black and white resumes. So get creative. And finally, get creative with the referral applications, which we'll talk about in the next section. And I can't stress this enough: network, network, network. I created this, what I call the superpowers worksheet, which you can use to map out your current existing skills. Transferable skills are portable, and you have definitely learned them in your past job and life experience. So it's just a matter of taking stock, take inventory of what you have, as well as identify gaps which you can improve on. Remember the 4 key competencies we spoke about: business expertise, domain expertise, leadership, and operational ability. Go through each of these skills, and again, feel free to add more skills to the list. This is simply where it's a good start, a good foundation. For each of those skills, look at these 3 and determine, hey, do I feel competent? Do I enjoy it but I'm not very proficient at it? Or is it something I'd like to develop? And then again, rank yourself from a scale of 1 to 10. Now using that, you'll be able to plot out what I call a skills radar chart. So you'll be able to map out from a score of 1 to 10 where you are on each of these skill dimensions. And by the end, similar to PM Daisy, you should be able to see some jagged graph, right? Where you might lean really strong for some of them. Perhaps you came from a marketing background, so you rank yourself pretty high on marketing skills and business skills, but maybe a lower or shy off in the technical expertise. So you'll see spikes up here and lower skills down here. And once you have that, it should give you some information around where your strengths are and where your potential weaknesses or gaps may be. Now we can segue into building relationships and how to get job referrals, as well as leverage the power of community. Another great quote here from Lisa Su, who is the CEO of Advanced Micro Devices, or AMD. And if you have been following the stock prices and the press releases on AMD recently, you see that they are doing very, very well. So as Lisa says, the world is starving for new ideas and great leaders who will champion those ideas. And that's you. She's talking about you. Definitely get into that room and be part of the table. Definitely get into the room and be part of the decision makers that will define the strategy and the products that's going to go into the hands of potentially millions of users. So remember earlier, I asked you to fill out the poll around how you feel about networking. Well, I know, that's a lot of how people feel. Again, standard deviation, right? Here is a distributed curve, bell curve, and you see that most people rank themselves in the middle. And I know most of us may feel slightly queasy about networking and would much rather not network. So why do you hate or dislike networking? Tons of research out there, and I think it's always important to acknowledge why we dislike it. Some of these quotes may resonate with you. I don't know what to say. I feel as though I'm bothering people. It's tough to keep track of everyone I've spoken to. Oh, it's hard to sound upbeat when I'm totally depressed. Now, everyone's been through job search. Everyone knows how draining an experience it is. You're constantly putting yourself out there, falling in love with a company, falling in love with their mission. But when you don't get that affirmation or acknowledgement and you don't get that dream job you're aiming for, it's hard not to feel slightly defeated. And that's true. You can definitely be in a hard space. You might not be mentally or physically or emotionally ready to go out there and do networking. Some of the ways in which men and women network differently. Again, lots of research out there. Feel free to read this article by Caroline. And I think it's important to acknowledge how men versus women network differently so that you can play to your strength and walk into a room knowing how to approach people. Now, this is pretty stereotypical or pretty generic, right? Obviously, there's going to be exceptions to the norm or to the average. But at a high level, most of the time, you'll find that women prefer building long-term connections. And because of that, they're hesitant to ask for what they want out of a network interaction right there, right then. Because for women, oftentimes the backtrack that's going on in their head is, well, I've just met this person for 10 minutes. It feels really strange to be asking something of them already. Similar to this, women often prefer to form smaller, deeper trust networks, and they may be cautious of after-work socials. Again, depending on where they are in their life, what their social or cultural norms may be, and how they're brought up, many other factors that play into it. Now, for men, generically, most men would be more focused on the short-term immediate need, whether they need to close a business deal, or they are trying to find a job, or they're trying to get referral somewhere. They are more comfortable mixing business and friendship, and they know that that's the socially accepted norm of what you have to do to get ahead. And in general, men are comfortable with building larger, broader alliances, and there may be more occasions to regularly socialize after work, such as happy hours or going to a sport game or even doing fantasy football leagues. Now, I think a part of learning to network or being okay with networking is about reframing the context of networking. And here I want to pose a question to you of saying, what if I told you that you should network like your life depends on it? A little dramatic, I know, because you may be saying, well, why would my life depend on it? Now, let me show you why. Remember that number I showed you earlier on about how the total comp differs more than $500,000, more than $500,000 between a product manager job to a VP of product title? Now, how will that financial stability, how will getting that extra $500,000 affect your mental well-being, your physical well-being, your family, how you can show up and support the people you care about, helping you achieve your life goals, whether that be moving to the suburbs so you have a bigger home that's more comfortable and more space for the family, to perhaps moving cross-country or even internationally to be closer to your family, or something as simple as wanting to go travel more. Well, once COVID is lifted, wanting to go travel more. What are some of those life goals you'll be able to achieve if you had more financial stability? So if those are what's on the line, would you be willing to learn to get comfortable with networking? Referral for your dream company. Tying to the earlier comment, this is a great definition of networking, which I really enjoy, from the book Squiggly Career. It says networking is simply people helping people. And I think we're able to internalize that. It does make networking more palatable as an idea. It's really about meeting others, understanding how you can help them, and helping them. So in Squiggly Career, they kind of break it down to 7 different steps you can follow. Firstly, having a clear goal of what you're trying to achieve. Are you just trying to get a job that has a higher salary than what you have right now because of financial stability? Are you trying to get a job which will help you break into a new industry, such as tech? Maybe get into product management? Or are you trying to get a job because you are really inspired by a company's leadership and you really want to work closely with that leader? Maybe at a startup because they're a founder of a new company. And then be clear on what you have to give to others. Again, with all of us, we have our different lived life experiences, different professional and personal journey, and everyone has something to offer of value. Perhaps you're in healthcare and you're able to tell someone else who is brand new, never worked in healthcare industry, perhaps you can offer that domain expertise or industry experience. Or perhaps you are a business analyst and one of your superpower is your data analytics skills. That might be really helpful or relevant for someone who maybe came from a sales or design background. Find something, get clear on that, and know what you have to offer to others. So once you have these 2 things down, you can find people who can help you achieve your goals, schedule 20 to 30-minute virtual coffees or informational interviews, and reach out to them and learn about their journey. Stay organized, keep a record of your network, find ways to give back to your network or your key contacts, and finally, try to make it a habit. Again, a lot of the time networking may feel transactional because it's almost a chicken and egg problem. right? You're networking when you need something. For example, getting a job or getting a referral. And because of that, networking feels very transactional because you know you're only reaching out to someone because you need something from them. Now, imagine if you're just networking because you're curious about people's journey and their career, and you're networking all the time, even when you're not looking for a job, just to learn about what it's like working in healthcare, what it's like working as a business analyst, what it's like working as a software engineer. So now by the time comes when you do need something, perhaps a referral, perhaps an introduction, it will feel less transactional because you met this person way before you needed to ask them for their help. And perhaps you were already able to help them earlier on. A talk I gave recently, I believe this was back in August, I spoke about how I get clear on my goal and purpose. And I hope this may be helpful or relevant for you as well. Firstly, identifying the goal. Getting a new job, for example. And then identifying what your area of interest is. Is it a new industry? Is it a new job function? Is it a specific skill set? Understanding your time of interest. Do I want to achieve this goal in the next 3 months? In the next year? In the next 3 years? Each of those different time cadence or time duration would dramatically affect how I choose to approach reaching my goal. And ultimately, what are your success criteria? Is it a matter of finding a job with a highest pay, higher salary? Is it a matter of finding a job which is 100% remote, so you can be based wherever you want to be closer to family? Or perhaps it's about having access to learning and development resources so that you can really grow and flourish in your career. What are your success criteria? Get clear on that. And now, talk about starting today with who are in your current network. Again, you can do this very simply. If you go on LinkedIn, you should see that there's a connections tab right next to your city where you're based right now. If you click on that link, it will bring you to a search page and it will show you what the result is of the number of people in your network. Some of these might be friends, family friends, colleagues, ex-colleagues, acquaintances, someone you met once at a conference. It'd be helpful to look through the different filters to understand where's my network base. Is it in the cities I have lived in? What kind of companies are they working at? What are their current job titles? What industries are they in? Right? Map out your career. Just as you would do as a product manager, you're doing market research and understanding the competitive landscape. It's equally important to understand who's in your network. And start with places with 1 degree of separation. People you're already connected to. I showed you LinkedIn. You can do the same for your Facebook. You can do the same with your group of friends or even family friends. And here I wanted to show you actual examples. So we're getting down to a brass tacks. I wanted to share this example because I think it's highly relevant. So in this case, someone reached out to me after my last masterclass. The last time I gave this class was back in August. And in this case, she saw at the time that I was connected I was connected to a company called Safegraph. And she came across this role, which she would like to learn more about. So she made a specific ask, which is, am I available for a quick coffee chat to discuss my experience in interviewing with the team? And also, by offering to help, right? She's happy to share any insights or perspective or how she can help in return. In this case, for me, we have a quote-unquote mutual connection, right? Which is she came to one of my classes. She's very specific about her need, so I know what she needs and how I can help. And also she offered to help in return. So for me, it was an easy ask and I was perfectly happy to jump on the call. Now, after we got on the call, she noted, hey, are you comfortable with making an introduction for me with someone who's at the Safegraph team? In my case, yes, after speaking with her, I was comfortable. So I sent a quick LinkedIn message to both her and someone I know at the company. I don't know if she's a hiring manager, but I know she's within the product organization there. So I just made a quick introduction and noted that this job, a specific link, is what she's interested in. And within, 3 hours, we heard a response and the person is happy to pass the info on to an internal recruiter. Again, this is someone who is currently connected, right, with first degree or 1 degree of separation, and she was able to reach out and be specific about her ask. Now, I stress the word specific because I think something on the flip side that doesn't work is when you reach out to someone and say, hey, do you have 20 minutes for a quick chat? I'd like to, pick your brain. I think people are resistant to that because firstly, they don't know why you are asking for a coffee chat with them. They don't know how you can help you. And even the term picking your brain, right? It's kind of strange. So I think when you're reaching out, even for your existing network, be as specific and be as clear as possible so that, again, folks on the other end can choose if they can engage, depending on if they can help you out. So another example here is for reaching out to build further connections, maybe with people you're not currently connected to. And one of the ways you can is leverage LinkedIn search, company, by job title, by the city they are based in, or maybe even the school they went to, right? Another way is you can reach out to thought leaders or rely on some of your current Facebook community groups. So here are 2 examples where I went to a recent conference, the Women in Product conference, and I saw someone's post on the social app, which is the app we used. So in this case, I was reaching out to her to learn more about how she is building and fostering a culture to support women in tech at her company. A lot of the time, thought leaders are already putting out content. They may be actively posting on LinkedIn, or maybe they have their own blog, own newsletter, they're active on Twitter. Chances are most thought leaders are already putting out content in one way or another. In which case, take that as an invitation to engage. They're putting out information because they want people to read it and they want people to engage with it. So don't be shy about reaching out, even if they are famous or they are very senior or they are a VP or founder at some unicorn startup company. In this case, again, I was specific, loved the session on BMC, spoke about how we briefly touch base. I posed a question during a Q&A session, probably during a webinar. And I was specific about what was relevant, the B2B enterprise software experience. In this case, simply said I love to stay connected. Doesn't have to be difficult to connect. You just need to be sincere and find a commonality or something that piqued your interest and share that and be clear about that. So part of it is about staying organized. A lot of the time, networking, job application, there's several moving parts and information scattered. Some in your emails, some in your LinkedIn inbox, some in your text messages, some on Twitter. It's everywhere, right? So part of reducing the mental overload is to stay focused by staying organized and really tracking your progress. Here I have 2 different trackers or 2 different templates you can use, one for networking, one for job search. Again, if you click on the link, you'll be able to get there. And I wanted to share another example, Trello. I personally am a very visual learner, so I really like Trello's board where you can drag cards left and right, and you can create these different labels as well, such as phone call, priority, date due, etc. So really find a medium or find a mechanism that works for you. For those who enjoy the good old Excel sheet, I have that too. Similarly, you can get into a lot more granular details, right? You can have job titles, the job posting link itself, who you contacted at that company, what their email is, etc., etc. So find a way that works for you, whether it be visual or if it's something that a good old Excel or a Google Doc works. Lastly, the power of community. Even if you have a small network right now, you can still tap into other communities to share commonalities. You're here today because you're interested in a career in product management, and perhaps you're interested in a career in tech. So part of that is go and find communities where there's already a lot of people who are working in tech and perhaps working in product management or any other field you're looking at. And using two examples here, if you look just on LinkedIn, again, right, plug in the word product manager in the title for people, you see that there's over 200,000 PMs globally. And these are all people you can potentially connect with. Now, looking smaller, again, in my case, as a woman, one of the communities I'm very active in is the Women in Product Facebook group. And in there, there's over 20,000 members. Again, I don't need to connect with all of them, right? But even if I connect with 4, 5, 6 of them, just something on the regular, chances are I will increase my network by using the commonality that we're all part of the Women in Product community. And again, I have listed more communities in my blog post here, how to stand out from the crowd. So I hope that will be helpful for you. So we've gone through a lot of information in the last half an hour to 45 minutes. And our journey today, we opened with talking about money, right? Looking at the market landscape and what the average base salary as well as total compensation looks like for product management. And then we move into transferable skills, where we spoke about using the PSHE framework as well as a PM Daisy framework to understand what a new or what a potential job may require. And then we had the spreadsheet, so you can look at how you will map your transferable skills and discover your superpowers. And finally, we close with a section on building relationships, about how you can leverage your existing network, that first degree of separation, to leveraging the power of community, where you may not know anyone there yet, but they're working in an industry or in a job function that you want to transition into. So I hope this was helpful for you. Yeah, and at this time, I would like to open up for a Q&A, and good luck with your career transition. Thank you.